This is TLV1.
TLV1 radio.
Okay, so I want to move to Israel Chemicals because, first of all, last week it announced that it is further expanding outside Israel. It's going to develop a potash mine in Ethiopia with Alana. And simultaneously, it also published its profits, its earnings for 2013. Profits are down 37% last year. Revenues are down. So should we be optimistic? Should we be pessimistic about Israel Chemicals?
I think we should be optimistic in the long term overall for the sector. I think the potash
sector.
Yeah, the potash sector overall, I think, is a great sector to be in, especially if you have a very, very long investment horizon, because all of the stories we've heard over the last few years about, China getting a lot richer and the middle class of China starting to eat meat and chicken.
Yeah, there is a growing demand for potash.
And therefore China needs for grain is increasing exponentially, and therefore you need fertilizers, and therefore you need potash. Yeah. All of that is true. It's only a question of exactly when it's all going to kind of reach critical mass. Yeah. So although, as you mentioned, 2013 was a lousy year for ICL in the entire sector because of oversupply in the potash sector and the issue with
I'm wondering, because 2013 was a very lousy year for ICL, I'm wondering if perhaps there was an over-optimistic view of the potash market, and now there's oversupply. We have too many companies in the potash sector, perhaps. So it's not certain that potash will actually be profiting here.
No, it's not certain. Look, what happened basically is that the industry had great years in 2006, 2007, and most of 2008, and then all of the producers started to expand their production capacities. And when the crisis of 2009, 2010 hit, they didn't stop. So we reach now a situation where we simply have too much potash. But this is a mining sector, so the time horizon is measured in decades. So if you take that kind of perspective, then and unless you're extremely pessimistic on China and global economy overall, then this has to be a good sector to be in. The problem is that most investors, certainly capital markets investors, don't have that time horizon. They usually invest, maybe for a couple of weeks, a couple of quarters, at the most a year or so. No one invests for so long, other than the companies themselves. A company like ICL, for them, it makes a lot of sense to invest now in Ethiopia, although the market currently is oversupplied. But
doesn't it mean that they're paying
capital markets, it's more complicated.
Doesn't it mean that they're paying a much larger price because there's, or perhaps the price is cheaper now because there is oversupply, so they're buying in Ethiopia?
Yeah, I think the price is obviously coming down because obviously the return on the investment in Ethiopia is mostly dependent on the price of potash.
Yeah.
For example, if you go to the website of Alana Potash, the IRR they mentioned there is 33%, but this is assuming the price of potash is more than $400 per ton. Currently, the price is about $300, so the IRR is falling to 21%. So obviously, it's an opportunity for ICL.
So what you're saying is basically that it's a good time now to invest in the future, to develop mines, to invest in the future and be ready for when the tide comes in and the price goes up and demand goes up.
Completely. The problem is, or one of the problems, at least from the point of view of Israel, is that why is ICL doing it in Ethiopia? Because there's more room to expand in the Dead Sea. Yeah. ICL was planning for years to invest in a sixth pool, to invest their capacity in the Dead Sea by a few hundreds of thousands of tons of potash. And in theory, it makes a huge more sense to do it in Israel than go to Ethiopia to a completely new mine and get entangled in Ethiopia.
So
the issue is that, of course, taxes and royalties are a lot cheaper in Ethiopia.
So basically, they ran away from taxes, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. For example, in Ethiopia, ICL and its partner are not paying any corporate tax for the first 8 years of the life of the mine. So for the first 8 years of production, no taxes at all. Royalties on potash are 4% of revenues, and now ICL, even before the conclusions of the new Shishinsky Committee to increase taxes and royalties, even now ICL is paying twice the royalties it's going to pay in Ethiopia. So basically, taxes and royalties are driving ICL away from Israel, and that's bad news.
That is bad news, but we've always, I mean, is it the only reason it's going to Ethiopia, just the taxes, or any other reasons to go to Ethiopia?
I don't think there are other. I don't think.
I mean, this is
any
strictly a
other
reaction to Israel's tax policy, is what you're saying. That that the threats of companies to leave Israel is actually materializing.
Exactly, and ICL was always talked about as a company that can't escape Israel, right? This is why the government has the freedom to victimize it, at least in my view, the way it does, because you can't take out the Dead Sea, right? It's stuck here. This is
it belongs to us.
Yeah, well, ICL got the concession. Companies like Teva or Checkpoint or NICE, they can simply flee Israel, and therefore the state is dealing them with kid gloves. With ICL, supposedly it's a victim that can't escape.
So this is a statement.
There we go. It can escape.
So this is a statement of purpose. It's going to it's a message that ICL is sending Israel. We could leave. We have other places to go. We could expand globally and not deal with with taxes here and the Dead Sea.
Exactly. And from the perspective of the citizens of Israel, every dime that's invested in Ethiopia is a dime not invested in Israel. And this is something that we need to consider. It's not only the potash business of ICL, by the way, that is suffering. ICL might also close down completely its phosphate business in Israel because they're not getting a concession from the state of Israel to increase mining activities. So their phosphate business in Israel is simply not profitable enough, and they're also talking about investing in phosphate outside of Israel.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. The message, what I understand is that 2013 was a lousy year for ICL, right? Partly, at least, because of Israeli tax policies, and 2014, perhaps 2015 are going to be better because it's expanding globally, where it doesn't have the same tax burden as in Israel.
I would say that the returns on investments outside of Israel, especially in Ethiopia, are going to take longer to materialize. We're talking about at least 2016.
2016.
But again, for a mining company, this is the type of investment horizon one needs to consider.
Yes. Well, okay, we'll have to wrap up here. So thank you so much, Gilad Alper, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.